Yeah.
Right, this is the woodcut I'm working on at the moment, which is the right hand panel of a 3-panel triptych. But because you cut in negative, when it's printed this will be the other way around, in negative. So it's 2 blocks mortised together, so I can work on them now, and then they'll be split off because that's the size of the platen on the press of each one. So they're pressed in separate, so all together there'll be 8 blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because the middle piece is wider. Once you've got your drawing on and you're happy with it, and if you don't get your drawing right, rub it out and start again, because if you don't get your drawing right, you are not going to get the cuts right, ever. Then the other thing, one of the biggest cock-ups that I keep doing is cutting out the black where you should be cutting out the white. So just make sure you know which bit is the black bit that's staying in and the bit that's coming out before you start cutting. Because if you get it wrong, you've got to start the block again. So what we're doing now is freehand cutting out the waste, which when it's printed on the paper, these will be white areas. So the block itself that stays in are the black areas which take the ink. So you're cutting each piece out, and then the good idea is when you're slowly working your way up the block, is every now and again is ink some in so you know what you're looking at. You can see I've already done that with the octopus at the bottom. So I've rubbed ink over that with a roller. So that's virtually how it will print, except these areas will be white instead of sort of the colour of the block. I'm using a maple block, mainly because with a maple block, the difference between the heartwood or the winter growth and the summer growth is almost non-existent. If you work with other woods, you get a big difference. What you'd see is the rings in a tree, but when you're cutting hard, soft, which you don't get with a maple block, which makes it an ideal wood for wood cutting. But it doesn't matter what you use. You can use plywood, anything. Depends on the end result, what you want. A lot of nutwoods are good. The Japanese use lots of different types of wood. They're probably the best in the world at wood cuts, but this is a different technique. The Japanese would use multicolours, so they'd have one block and either cut it for different colours, so you're printing it at different stages, or they'd have multiple blocks and then overlay them in the press, so that the paper's used over and over again on 6, 7, 8 different colours to make the different coloured woodcut. But I like them really black and white, so I only use one block to print, and then if I want any coloured areas in afterwards, then I'll colour them in with either watercolour or designer's gouache. So you're just working your way around the block, cutting out, making sure that you're cutting the areas out you're supposed to be cutting. And then what we'll do then is, just to see what it looks like, we'll push it off, and then with an ink roller, Joe's just knocked off with the bag, so it's got ink all over the bag now. We'll just rub over that. Let's see what it's looking like. This ink will just dry on the block eventually, doesn't make any difference, and it won't harm the block because it gets covered in ink anyway. So what that's showing me is that where my underwater sea here, which shows this effect, meets the waves where I want a clear distinction, I want a clear line there. So I'm going to need to cut all this out underneath so the crisscrossing dissolves into a white line. So I've got the underwater, the seascape, and then on top of that we've got the dolphin splashing out the sea, the clouds, and the Sixth Extinction symbol at the top, which is to cut out yet. So it's reasonable that I could get all the rest of this done probably this weekend.